Welcome to this 365 Freedom Strategy session. Today we're breaking down the mechanics of authentic productivity and why your biggest business bottleneck is the productivity system you're trying to force yourself into.
Yeah, and it's a bottleneck that almost every leader hits at some point.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we're acting as your strategic partners today to really, deconstruct this illusion, the illusion that just having complex tools somehow equals actual output.
Right. Because the very systems that are marketed to make you hyper-efficient, they're usually the exact things burning you out.
Exactly. And it's a scenario I think, well, pretty much all of us know intimately.
Oh, sure.
Like, picture this. It's Sunday evening, you're sitting at your kitchen table, laptop is open, you've just, downloaded the absolute latest, highly rated calendar app.
The one everyone on social media is talking about.
Right, the one that's supposed to fix your entire life.
Yeah.
So you spend, I don't know, an hour meticulously color-coding your upcoming week. 15-minute increments. You've got blue for strategy, red for client calls, green for personal development.
Perfectly optimized grid.
Yeah, zero white space.
Yeah.
And you look at this stacked schedule and you think, this is it. This is the week I finally become an absolute machine.
And then reality hits.
Hard. By Tuesday at like 2:00 p.m., you're just staring blankly at your screen. You're eating a stale protein bar, completely ignoring 3 overlapping red blocks that you just, failed to execute.
Yeah, and you feel guilty. You feel exhausted and hopelessly behind.
You're just so behind.
That Sunday night optimism followed by that Tuesday afternoon collapse is just a universal cycle in high-performance circles.
It really is. So our mission today is to evaluate the research, the case studies, the behavioral data, and really analyze why that cycle happens.
Because true operational leverage, it doesn't come from stricter rules, it comes from self-awareness.
Right. So let's start with what we're calling the misdiagnosis of the founder's bottleneck. Because when these systems fail, the way we assign blame is it's totally backwards.
It's completely backwards. The misdiagnosis usually starts with, well, a very real problem, which is overwhelming volume.
The demands of the business just exceed the available hours.
Exactly. A founder hits a wall. But the default reaction to this friction is almost never to question the actual nature of the work.
Right.
Instead, they turn to, the marketplace of productivity methods. They assume the solution is just better administration of their time.
So they buy the complex software.
Yeah, they do the Pomodoro techniques, the hour-by-hour blocking. They try to engineer their way out of the overwhelm.
And when it inevitably falls apart, when that Tuesday afternoon collapse happens, the psychological trap just snaps shut.
It does, because the immediate reflexive assumption is never, oh, this methodology is flawed.
No, never. Or even, this methodology is incompatible with my neurochemistry.
Right. The assumption is always that it's a personal moral failing.
You sit there and think, I am the problem. I just lack discipline.
If I just had more willpower, this color-coded spreadsheet would have saved my business.
Yeah. And that internal narrative of guilt is, it's incredibly destructive.
It's destructive, and analytically speaking, it's entirely wrong.
Right.
The belief that productivity requires these rigid, unwavering schedules, it creates this dangerous false binary.
Explain that binary.
Well, the binary dictates that either you conform perfectly to the prescribed system or you lack the discipline required to be successful.
Wow, yeah.
But we need to look at why this is actually a problem of structural misalignment. It's not a failure of willpower at all.
It's a mismatch.
Exactly. When a system promises maximum efficiency but completely ignores the biological reality of how a specific human brain processes information,
Right.
how it recovers from stress, how it generates focus, it's destined to fail before you even input your first task.
I see that false binary everywhere.
Yeah.
It's like adopting one of these highly prescriptive systems is equivalent to putting on someone else's prescription glasses.
That's a great way to put it.
You put them on because the industry told you, hey, these are the most expensive, top-of-the-line lenses available.
So you expect instant clarity.
Right. But instead, the room spins. Your depth perception is completely ruined, and you develop a massive headache.
Yeah.
And the tragic part is, instead of taking the glasses off and realizing, oh, these just aren't my prescription, you blame your own eyes.
You convince yourself your vision is broken.
Exactly. Rather than accepting that the lenses were engineered for a completely different set of corneas.
That analogy perfectly illustrates the biological mismatch. You're judging your internal reality against an artificial external standard built for someone else's physiology.
Right.
And to bring this down to ground level, let's look at the micro story from the materials we're reviewing today.
The client who spent years trapped in this.
Yes. a highly successful founder who was deeply committed to the classic time-blocking method.
Right. The philosophy where every single minute of the waking day just has to be accounted for on a grid.
Yeah, her calendar was an impenetrable wall of tasks, and the physiological result of that structure was a constant low-grade state of panic.
Because there's no slack.
None. When you build a system with zero slack, the moment one task runs over by even 10 minutes, the entire architecture of the day just cascades into failure.
Which happens every day in the real world.
Exactly. So she describes spending every single day feeling like she was just playing catch-up. Her cortisol levels were chronically elevated because she was constantly fighting the clock.
And she genuinely believed she lacked the inherent discipline to be a competent CEO, right?
She did. She completely blamed herself.
Okay, wait, I need to push back on this before we go further.
Sure.
Because if we start telling leaders to just discard established systems, to throw out the time blocking and the rigorous scheduling, don't we risk creating an environment of complete chaos?
It's a valid concern.
Like, where's the boundary line between correctly identifying misalignment and just giving people a convenient excuse for, well, laziness? Because if a founder decides, you know what, getting up early and looking at a calendar just isn't my natural rhythm, I'm going to wing it, their business is going to hit a wall.
That is the most common apprehension, and addressing it requires us to separate the concept of structure from the concept of rigidity.
Okay, structure versus rigidity.
Yeah. Rejecting a misaligned system isn't an invitation to abandon discipline.
Yeah.
It's about replacing an artificial, forced structure with an organic, biologically sustainable structure.
So discipline is still required.
Discipline is absolutely still the engine of success. The nature of the discipline shifts.
How so?
It's no longer the brute force discipline of forcing yourself into an unnatural box. It's the higher level discipline of self-observation.
Wow.
It takes immense discipline to honor your own cognitive pacing when the rest of the world is telling you to just hustle harder.
That makes a lot of sense.
If your brain scientifically requires a neurochemical reset every 45 minutes to maintain executive function, and you're forcing yourself to stare at a screen for 3 uninterrupted hours, you're not being disciplined.
You're just burning out.
Worse, you are being operationally negligent.
Operationally negligent. Wow. So the requirement for discipline doesn't disappear. It evolves.
Exactly.
You stop using discipline to fight your own biology, and you start using it to fiercely protect the environment that actually yields your best output.
That is the exact pivot. And that pivot leads us directly into the core technical distinction of this session.
Let's get into that. The difference between the illusion of structure and actual output.
Right. If we're going to dismantle the illusion of complex tools, we have to establish the profound difference between being busy and working with your rhythm.
Because on the surface, to an employee or, an investor looking at a founder's schedule, those two states might look identical.
Completely identical. A full calendar looks like a full calendar.
But internally, the mechanics driving the work are just completely different universes.
They're driven by entirely different fuel sources.
So break down being busy for us.
Okay, let's analyze the state of being busy. This is a state characterized by high friction. It relies almost exclusively on pressure, anxiety, and looming deadlines to generate action.
It's reactive.
Very reactive, and fundamentally performative. When a leader is caught in the trap of being busy, they're prioritizing the optical illusion of work.
The appearance of it.
Right. They're obsessed with filling blocks on the calendar because that density provides a temporary psychological safety net.
It makes them feel productive.
It creates the feeling of momentum, even if the vehicle is just spinning its wheels in the mud.
It's like substituting motion for progress.
Exactly.
You finish a 10-hour day of back-to-back Zoom calls and rapid-fire email responses.
Yeah.
You are physically and mentally depleted.
Exhausting.
But if you actually audit the day and ask, what needle did I move? What high-leverage strategic decision did I actually finalize? The answer is often terrifyingly small.
Yeah. The energy you expended does not correlate at all to the value you created. It's the definition of low operational leverage.
You're burning massive amounts of cognitive fuel to travel a very short distance.
Right. Now, we contrast that with the state of working with your rhythm.
Okay, what does that look like?
The defining characteristic here is sustainability. When you operate in alignment with your natural biological pacing, tasks require significantly less forced pressure to initiate.
It just flows better.
Yeah, your executive function, your ability to make complex decisions, stretches much further into the day.
Because you're not fighting yourself.
Exactly. But this state isn't accidental. It requires a high degree of strategic self-awareness.
Right.
You're no longer just reacting to tasks as they appear. You are deliberately matching specific types of work to specific states of internal energy.
That brings to mind the physics of rowing a boat.
Oh,
Yeah, being busy is like rowing fiercely against the current. You're sweating. Your muscles are burning, you're putting in maximum effort, but you're barely inching forward.
you're fighting the environment.
Exactly.
Right.
But working with your rhythm is turning the boat around and rowing with the current.
Right.
You
Yeah.
still have to row. You can't just drop the oars and expect to win the race. Effort is still required.
Of course.
But because the environment, in this case, your internal biological environment is supporting your effort rather than resisting it, your output is magnified exponentially.
That's a perfect analogy. And we have to extrapolate what happens when you apply these two different states to the macro level of a company.
Yeah, let's look at the business impact.
Let's look at the compounding friction created when a founder is chronically stuck in the being busy state. The founder is the primary engine of the enterprise.
Right.
When that engine is constantly operating against its own design specifications, the mechanical wear and tear is severe. They are chronically fatigued.
And what's the first thing to degrade when the brain is fatigued?
The prefrontal cortex.
Which governs everything important.
Exactly. Complex problem solving, emotional regulation, strategic foresight.
So they stop making proactive, visionary decisions and start making reactive, defensive decisions.
They're just trying to survive the calendar they built for themselves.
And that internal friction doesn't stay contained, does it?
No, it cascades outward. It bottlenecks the entire organization.
Walk us through how that happens.
Okay, imagine a Tuesday afternoon. The founder is exhausted from forcing themselves through unnatural time blocks.
Right.
The marketing team needs approval on a major campaign pivot. The engineering team is waiting on a crucial architectural decision.
Both high-stakes decisions.
Yes. But because the founder's cognitive bandwidth is completely tapped out just trying to maintain the facade of their rigid schedule, they can't process the information required to make those decisions quickly.
So they freeze.
They delay, they ask for more time.
So the founder's personal biological friction becomes the company's structural friction.
Exactly the outcome.
The irony is staggering. The very system the founder implemented to be hyperproductive and scale the business becomes the exact mechanism choking off the company's growth.
Because the leader is redlining their engine in the wrong gear.
That is the ultimate cost of misalignment. So the question we really need to answer for you, the listener, is diagnostic.
Right. How do you spot it?
Yeah, how do we structurally help a founder recognize when they're caught in this specific trap? What's the diagnostic tool to tell if a calendar is a tool for output or just a monument to anxiety?
To diagnose this, you have to examine the specific architectural flaws of a failed schedule.
Okay, what are the symptoms?
The first symptom is the complete absence of white space.
The fully packed grid.
Yes. If there is no margin built in for transition, reflection, or the inevitable unpredictable crisis, the schedule is fragile.
It's gonna break.
Always. The second symptom is a high frequency of task rollover.
Like pushing things to the next day.
Right. If the same strategic initiative keeps getting pushed tomorrow, then to next week, it indicates your system is prioritizing urgent minor tasks over important major ones.
Ah, yeah. That happens a lot.
And the third symptom is severe context switching without recovery time.
Give me an example of that.
Jumping from a granular financial audit straight into a highly creative branding meeting within 60 seconds.
Oh, that's brutal.
It is physically impossible. The brain physically cannot clear the attention residue from the first task fast enough to be effective in the second.
Attention residue. That's a great term.
But the most glaring systemic flaw we see in the research is what we classify as the hour-by-hour trap.
Okay, let's isolate and intensely analyze the hour-by-hour trap, because this connects directly back to the client in the case study who was living in a state of constant panic.
It's the central mechanism of her failure.
Right.
The data shows this client was actively destroying her own potential output by adopting long, unbroken, hour-by-hour scheduled blocks.
Why do we do this to ourselves?
She had internalized the dominant cultural narrative that serious, meaningful work requires locking yourself in a room and staring at a monitor for 4 solid hours of unbroken concentration.
The classic monk mode mentality.
Right.
Put on the noise-canceling headphones, turn off the phone, and grind.
Right.
And while there's plenty of literature supporting deep work, applying it as a universal blanket standard is where things break down.
It clearly was destroying her.
Why was it so destructive for her specifically?
Because it violated her specific biological reality. Her actual natural cognitive rhythm was not suited for marathons of endurance.
So how did her brain work?
Her brain operated optimally in short, highly intense, focused bursts, followed necessarily by brief periods of neurochemical recovery. And we need to make a critical, judgment-free distinction here.
What's that?
Neither the long-stretch worker nor the short-burst worker is inherently superior.
They're just different.
Exactly. They are just utilizing different operational machinery. The failure wasn't her lack of focus. The failure was her refusal to recognize and accommodate her personal style.
Why is this particular trap, the hour-by-hour rigid block, such an epidemic among founders and leaders? What is the psychological payoff that makes it so attractive even when it clearly doesn't work?
One word: control.
Control.
Founders exist in an environment of high ambiguity and massive responsibility. They feel the weight of the enterprise constantly.
Yeah, the pressure is immense.
So an hour-by-hour plan is a psychological defense mechanism against that ambiguity. When you look at a calendar that dictates your actions down to the minute, it provides an illusion of absolute control.
It feels like you're dominating your environment.
But the reality is, these plans leave absolutely zero margin for the biological tax of the work itself.
They leave zero margin for the resets.
Exactly. The brief resets that a high-intensity, short-burst worker absolutely requires to clear attention residue and replenish dopamine and glucose levels in the brain.
So if you're wired for short bursts, an hour-by-hour schedule is not a tool. It's a suffocation device.
It really is.
Let's walk through how that actually feels in practice. You sit down for a 2-hour block.
Okay.
For the first 30 minutes, you're on fire. You're making rapid connections. The output is high leverage. Your brain is firing on all cylinders.
Well, my thing's clicking.
Right. Then naturally, your neurochemistry asks for a 5-minute reset to synthesize the information and recover.
Which is completely normal.
But your rigid calendar dictates that you have 90 minutes left in this block. And stepping away means you're undisciplined.
So you force yourself to stay in the chair.
You stare at the screen, your focus fragments. You start opening new tabs, checking Slack, engaging in fake work.
Yeah.
You produce nothing of actual value for the next 90 minutes. You drain your remaining energy reserves fighting your own fatigue, and you end the block feeling guilty.
And the compounding effect is devastating.
Because it bleeds into the next block.
Because you enter the next hour-by-hour block already operating at a cognitive deficit. You're starting the next race already exhausted. Wow. In the case study we're reviewing, the transformation occurred when the client finally permitted herself to design a schedule that mirrored her actual biology.
What did she change?
She explicitly allowed herself to execute in rapid, intense bursts, and equally importantly, she scheduled the necessary reset periods.
So she built the recovery in.
She removed the guilt of stepping away. The result wasn't just a marginal increase in efficiency. Her entire experience of work transformed.
What did the data show?
The data notes that her productivity became highly consistent, the chronic stress evaporated, and she explicitly reported that her days felt lighter.
Felt lighter.
Yeah.
We need to pause on that because it's a profound metric.
It really is.
In business, we track revenue, we track churn, we track customer acquisition costs. We almost never track how the daily operation actually feels to the operator.
No, we don't, and we should.
Because the internal sensation of the work is the ultimate leading indicator of sustainability. If every single day feels incredibly heavy, like you're dragging a boulder up a hill, it's only a matter of time before you drop the weight.
Burnout is a mathematical certainty.
It is.
It's an unavoidable physical consequence of sustained friction. To really cement this concept, let's contrast the two distinct operational profiles detailed in our research.
Okay, let's lay them out side by side.
Consider the individual who processes information optimally in long, uninterrupted stretches.
A marathoner.
Right. For them, a 3-hour block is not a trap. It's a sanctuary. Their brain requires a slow loading period. It takes them 20 minutes just to gather the context of a complex problem.
But once they're in...
Once they achieve a state of flow, their endurance is massive. Pulling them out of that flow for a quick 5-minute check-in is catastrophic to their productivity.
Right, yeah.
Then you have the contrasting profile. The individual who thrives in short, structured bursts.
Which is our case study client.
Exactly. Their brain is highly agile. They can rapidly deploy their attention. synthesize disparate data points, and execute aggressive decisions quickly.
But there's a cost.
A huge metabolic cost. They burn through their cognitive reserves rapidly and must step away, change their environment, or let their mind wander to recharge.
The athletic analogy is perfect.
Let's hear it.
Okay, let's say you're born with the exact physiological makeup of an elite Olympic sprinter.
Okay.
Your muscular architecture is packed with fast-twitch fibers. You're literally built by nature for explosive, high-intensity, short-duration output.
You're a sprinter.
Right. But for whatever reason, you decide you want to be a marathon runner. You buy a training manual written by a marathon champion. You start forcing yourself onto the track for long, slow, hour-by-hour endurance runs.
That's not going to end well.
What is the inevitable result? You're going to perform terribly. You'll be a mediocre marathon runner because you lack the slow-twitch muscular endurance.
And you're ruining your natural strengths.
Worse, you will destroy your natural sprinting ability because you're constantly training the wrong energy system. When you fail to win the marathon, you aren't a bad athlete. You're just participating in the wrong sport.
You're applying the wrong methodology to your specific biology.
Exactly.
That analogy isolates the mechanics perfectly. When a sprinter founder attempts to manage their day like a marathon founder, they actively suppress their unique competitive advantage.
Their capacity to generate intense, rapid, high-leverage output.
Yes, they dilute their brilliant moments across a timeline that fundamentally doesn't serve them.
So understanding the biological pacing and the neurochemical realities is the theoretical foundation of authentic productivity.
It's the baseline.
But the mandate now is to translate this theory into a tangible, executable operational strategy for your actual workday.
Right.
Because theory without application is just trivia. It's one thing to acknowledge, oh, I need to find my natural rhythm.
It's a completely different challenge to actually restructure your behavior.
Especially when you have a company to run, fires to put out, and a team depending on you.
Which brings us to the strategy of implementation.
Right. How do we actually do this?
The research provides a very specific, actionable directive to begin this restructuring. It's called executing the energy audit.
The energy audit. This sounds like the objective diagnostic tool we need to move past the guilt and start gathering actual data on ourselves.
It is the foundational requirement for building a customized, authentic approach.
How does it work?
The instruction is conceptually straightforward, but it requires a level of active, objective self-observation that most leaders never practice.
Okay.
Over the next few days, you must meticulously document when you experience the sensation of feeling clear and steady.
Clear and steady.
Yes. And conversely, you must identify the specific windows when you naturally lose energy and experience cognitive drag.
Let's define clear and steady, because I think people confuse that with being hyped up on 3 cups of coffee.
Oh, absolutely.
We aren't talking about artificial stimulation or anxiety-driven frantic energy. We're talking about a genuine, grounded sense of cognitive clarity.
Exactly right. We're talking about the absence of brain fog.
Yeah.
It's the specific window where your executive function is operating at peak efficiency. It's the time when you can hold multiple complex variables in your mind simultaneously without feeling immediate mental fatigue.
So when does that usually happen?
It varies wildly. For some individuals, this biological peak occurs at 6:30 a.m. before the demands of the day have fractured their attention.
The early birds.
Right. For others, their neurochemistry aligns perfectly at 10:00 p.m. when the ambient noise of the world drops.
The night owls.
Or it might be a highly specific window between 1:30 p.m. and 3:00 p.m.
Right.
The audit is designed to locate this window empirically.
Okay, so once you find it.
Once you've identified your peak cognitive state, the operational directive is uncompromising. You must schedule one meaningful, high-leverage task during that specific window.
I want to break down the mechanics of that specific constraint. Why is the directive limited to just one meaningful task?
It seems counterintuitive, right?
If I discover my peak window is 2 hours long, why wouldn't I try to cram my top 5 most important strategic initiatives into that space?
Because attempting to overhaul your entire operational system simultaneously is a recipe for immediate regression.
Too much change at once.
Exactly. Starting with a single, highly meaningful task acts as a behavioral anchor. When individuals try to force 5 major tasks into a new structure, The friction of change usually causes the system to collapse.
But just one task is manageable.
By isolating just one highly strategic, difficult task, you establish a baseline of undeniable success.
Right.
By fiercely protecting your peak biological window for that single execution, you mathematically guarantee a high-leverage output for the day, regardless of the chaos that might ensue later.
It fundamentally alters the trajectory and the psychology of the entire day. If you execute that one massive, difficult, needle-moving action when your brain is operating at its absolute maximum capacity, you've essentially won the day early.
You have.
The servers could crash at noon, your afternoon meetings could spiral out of control, you could spend 3 hours putting out unforeseen fires, but you still created foundational value. You protected the asset.
That is the architectural blueprint for building a productivity system around your biological strengths, rather than relying on external pressure.
That's a huge shift.
Let's examine the extrapolation of this behavior. What actually happens to a business when a founder successfully and consistently aligns their most difficult cognitive work with their clearest mental window?
The compound interest on that must be massive.
We have to look at the compounding mathematical effect of getting that one meaningful thing done day after day, week after week, entirely without the friction of misalignment.
The mathematics of that consistency are staggering.
Let's run the numbers.
Think about it. If you execute one high-leverage, deeply strategic task every single workday in your optimal state of mind, that equates to roughly 250 major strategic advancements a year.
And these are executed with maximum clarity and precision.
Now, compare that trajectory to a founder who operates in the being busy trap.
The one forcing the schedule.
Right. They attempt to execute 5 strategic tasks a day while exhausted, constantly distracted, and fighting their own biology.
What happens?
They end up making poor decisions, the quality of the work degrades, and they spend the next week redoing half of what they produced.
Yep, it's net negative productivity.
Over a 12-month horizon, the founder who executes just one task perfectly aligned with their rhythm will utterly outpace the founder who is grinding against their own gears.
The leverage generated is immense because you've systematically removed the cognitive drag from the equation.
You're rowing with the current.
You're no longer expending energy fighting your own resistance to get the work done. The work flows organically because the internal biological conditions have been optimized for that specific type of output.
Okay, I have to step in with a major reality check here.
Go for it.
This entire framework sounds incredibly logical, almost mathematically perfect in a vacuum. But businesses do not operate in vacuums.
True.
What if my audited peak energy window, let's say it's definitively 9:00 a.m. to 11:30 a.m., is exactly the time when the reality of my business demands my attention?
It often is.
What if that is the precise window when my sales team needs immediate pricing approvals, when my key clients expect rapid responses, and when the daily operational hurdles just present themselves?
The chaos of the morning.
Exactly. How can a founder practically protect that peak cognitive window when the real world is aggressively knocking at the door?
That scenario is the most common and the most critical point of friction when implementing the strategy.
How do you resolve it?
Resolving it requires us to return to the foundational premise of our analysis today. Authentic productivity works best when it follows your internal rhythm, not the external rules imposed by others.
So how does that apply to the 9:00 a.m. chaos?
This principle applies directly to the absolute non-negotiable necessity of boundary setting.
Boundaries.
If your biological peak is between 9:00 a.m. and 11:30 a.m., and you are allowing that highly valuable cognitive real estate to be consumed by low-leverage team questions
Or reactive email checking.
or routine status updates, you are actively choosing to prioritize the immediate comfort and convenience of others over the long-term strategic growth of your company.
Ouch. That is a heavy realization.
It's the truth.
You're essentially framing the failure to protect your own calendar, not as a time management issue, but as a fundamental failure of leadership.
It is a severe operational failure.
Wow.
Leadership requires managing the most vital resources of the company, and the founder's peak cognitive focus is often the most vital resource available.
So what's the practical step?
You must communicate your biological rhythm to your organization. You establish the operational boundary clearly. Between 9:00 a.m. and 11:30 a.m., I am operating in deep focus.
Do not disturb.
I am unavailable unless the building is literally on fire. This is the time I dedicate to the strategic work that ensures this company exists next year.
The team still needs answers.
You must actively train your team to operate autonomously for those specific hours. You create systems where they batch their non-urgent questions for a designated afternoon sync.
So you're changing the culture, not just your calendar.
Exactly. Effective boundary setting is not about being arrogant or inaccessible. It's about being predictably accessible in a manner that doesn't destroy your primary asset.
It brings everything full circle to the idea that an authentic productivity system is entirely custom built.
Right.
You aren't just downloading an app and adjusting the colors on your digital calendar. You are fundamentally re-engineering the operating procedures of your entire organization to support and protect the founder's highest point of leverage.
It is a massive structural paradigm shift.
You move from the mindset of, I am the bottleneck, so I need to be available to everyone at all times to keep things moving, to the reality of, I must fiercely protect my cognitive peak so I can actually lead this company to the next level.
The architecture of the system must serve the biological reality of the operator, never the inverse.
This analysis has been incredibly revealing.
It's a huge shift in perspective.
We've completely dismantled the destructive psychological trap that tells you you are the problem when a rigid, misaligned system inevitably fails.
We've examined the mechanical difference between performative busyness and sustainable rhythm.
And we've outlined the exact steps to execute an energy audit to reclaim your operational leverage.
It demands a complete departure from the industrial age metric of hours worked, moving toward a framework built on genuine self-awareness and biological alignment.
I want to leave you, the listener, with a final strategic challenge based on the mechanics we've unpacked today.
A little homework.
Exactly. Pull up your calendar for tomorrow. Look analytically at the single most difficult, most important strategic task on your agenda.
The one that really matters.
Now ask yourself a hard question. Are you truly scheduled to execute that task during your natural, biologically verified peak energy window?
Or are you forcing it?
Or are you forcing it into a convenient color-coded block at 4:00 p.m. that mathematically guarantees you'll be exhausted, frustrated, and operating at a fraction of your actual capacity?
It's a vital question.
Remember, a system that works against your own biology is not a productivity system at all. It's an operational liability. If you're ready to build a productivity approach that truly supports you, visit 365 Freedom online to join the community. This has been a 365 Freedom Strategy session.